Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS in.form. I'm your host, Bill Potter. You may have heard of the phrase or the name Dubois County Cares. What is it? Let's find out in this edition of WJTS in.form. Joining us in the studio is Ashtin Borden. She is the new Dubois County Cares coordinator. Also joining us is Megan Durlauf. She is on the committee for Dubois County Cares, but her real job in her life is the director of the Dubois County Community Corrections. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to start off with Dubois County Cares. CARES is really an acronym for what?
CARES is an acronym for the Coalition for Adolescent Resilience and Empowerment Strategies.
And what does that mean?
It means that we are a group of individuals within the community that have identified that drugs and substance abuse within the youth sector is kind of a hidden issue, and we want to do our best to address that and address the problems associated with that, and do our best to inform people, especially parents, in some of the hindrances of letting kids participate in risky behaviors.
Okay, and that ends up with people going to the Community Correction Center. So it makes sense that you're on this committee, which is great. But is there that much of a drug problem in Dubois and surrounding counties?
You know, I feel like there is at least one arrest on a nearly daily basis for some sort of possession of a controlled substance or marijuana. But I feel like Dubois County really is the main thing to be concerned about with our adolescents at this point still is alcohol. I mean, and the culture surrounding alcohol.
Well, when we talk about gateway drugs, you know, marijuana is a gateway drug, cigarettes are a gateway to marijuana, which is then to heroin, or alcohol then leads to a lot of that as well. And sometimes I think we if it's too commonplace, it's too easy to go to that next level. Mm-hmm. So you see folks generally who are adults who have been committed crimes, but probably started when they were younger.
More often than not, yes.
Okay. And then what about, do you see many people who are now in jail who have kids that then they're the example for?
Absolutely. I would say it would probably be the majority of our clients who are parents, who have children.
Now, obviously, I'm a little older than you ladies, and when I was young, heroin was like a crazy bad drug, a legend drug. And I remember when I started in this business, maybe 30 years ago, if there was a heroin arrest in Dubois County once a year, that was a big deal. I mean, that was like a lot. But now it seems like I'm hearing of heroin arrests often. What are the drugs that are being used?
All of them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that there is a drug that is not or has not been used in this county. But again, I'll go back to I really truly believe that alcohol is the main focus for this county. And I think the arrest rates will show you that, OWI offenses to possession offenses.
And probably one of the biggest concerns then is that leads to something else, something deeper, worse.
Yes.
And so Dubois County Cares is working to keep adolescents, young kids, off of drugs. Why? Is the teen brain different than the adult brain?
Yeah, so that's a really good point that you bring up. The teen brain, actually, any human's brain doesn't finish developing until you're about 26. So the younger that you start partaking in any substance abuse, be it alcohol or marijuana or even heroin, the more detriments it has on that brain. And something, too, that we're seeing come across our board, in addition to what we would consider drugs, is really that of what we consider opiates. And I think that opens up a door, too, for what is an opiate. And sometimes it's as simple as a prescription drug that you get when you have a routine surgery or you break a bone. And what we're seeing more and more is that teens, because their brains aren't fully developed, they have an easier stage for getting addicted to these substances and needing them on a day-to-day.
Now, Dubois County Cares is mostly focused, because you recently got a grant on teen alcohol abuse and use and marijuana,
Right.
because those are the gateways, because you're
Yeah.
afraid that that's what leads to bad things.
The reason that we have a focus on those two substances is because of the data that we've harvested so far from the Indiana Youth Survey. Those two substances, along with the use of cigarettes and e-cigarettes and vapes, if you will, those have all risen to the top of what students are using in our area. So that's why our focus is there.
And recently, September of last year, a grant was received by Dubois County Cares from SAMHSA, which these acronyms drive me crazy over time. But what is SAMHSA?
So SAMHSA is Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. They're a governmental agency. They are completely funded by the government with focuses on substance abuse and mental health services and how we can get more of those services to areas that may not have it. The grant that we received is actually called a Drug-Free Communities grant. So the whole purpose behind that grant is that by the end of hopefully 10 years, we can be considered what is a drug-free community. So that just means that our offenses and our use rates are steadily going in a lower direction, not just for the youth in this area, but for the overall health of the entire community.
Really, I guess that's the top part. We see you talking about Dubois County Cares, but there is a big group that's working on this. You're one. I'm actually on the committee as well. How is Dubois County Cares, the committee, the coalition? Who is on that?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. We have 12 different sectors. Those sectors were named in the grant in specific areas that we have. So we have parents, youth, media. We have other law enforcement agencies in the county, business community, youth-serving organizations, other organizations that have a specialty in substance abuse or decisions that come along with substance abuse, and really just a variety of everybody in the community. So the whole idea is just that if you are in the community, you can be a part of this coalition, and we want as many people who are passionate about this issue to come to our coalition meetings and be a part of it.
How can they find out more about Dubois County Cares?
Yeah, great question there too. We can find out more about Dubois County Cares by going to duboiscountycares.org.
Okay, and all spelled out, duboiscountycares.org.
Yeah.
And you're tying in some programs that SAMHSA already has. Talk, parents who host lose the most, and Talk They Hear You. What's the connection there? How does that work?
Yeah, so Talk They Hear You is a campaign that was put out specifically by SAMHSA, and the idea behind that is really just that if you talk to students about substance use or specifically alcohol use and underage drinking, that gives you a greater groundwork for talking to them when it may become an issue. So they suggest that you start conversations as soon as your kids become social outside of your home. And they give you the tools to have those conversations. So I think that that's a really great program. They have a really awesome app that you can download onto any smartphone, and it'll actually role play with you. And it's kind of like a video game, so you can be the parent, and then there's a student that's talking, and they have a cell phone and it's ringing, and it asks you kind of what you would talk about. But before you get into choosing what you would do, it gives you tips on kind of how to talk to students about alcohol, because we're finding more and more that necessarily like what my parents said or maybe what your parents said to stray you away from alcohol isn't working with this generation. So it really role plays with you, and I think that that's great because having that conversation is definitely scary. So the most practice that you can get, the better off it is. Obviously, going to a peer or another parent and saying, hey, could you role play with me about
tough.
talking about that is a little difficult. So it gives you an opportunity for you to do it one-on-one or for you to do it with your spouse in kind of a virtual reality setting. And then it actually gives actual teen responses to the actions that you take. And it kind of can coach you along to the best method. So that's something really cool that goes with Talk They Hear You. Parents Who Host Lose the Most is a Prevention Action Alliance campaign. And that just is to educate parents on the dangers of hosting a party or hosting the drinking. And we're not just talking about like big parties that happen within the community, but even just having kids over and having, you know, a senior that says, hey mom, like my friends and I really want to drink. So you say, okay, I'll keep your keys and you stay in the house. I know that in past years, that's really been something that we've pushed as being a safe alternative, but then going back to the effects that alcohol has on a teen brain, we're really seeing that the longer that students can stay away from substances, the better it is for them in the long run.
Okay, and then I think parents, the whole idea is parents who host lose the most. They don't realize what they can lose
Right.
Just by hosting a party
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. And that program also targets educating on the criminal barriers around that and prosecution, and hopefully so that if you are one of those parents, you don't end up in Megan's clientele, so that we can prevent that, because I think a lot of parents think, well, as long as they're in my house, I'm not committing a crime, we're not doing anything bad, but really that still is a crime, even if it's within your own home.
And it is illegal, no matter where you are, to drink under 21, correct?
And it's illegal to provide to minors.
Even if it's in your own home and your own
Regardless
kids.
if it's your child or if it's, you know, your child and their friends, if it's in your home, whether you support it or not, still illegal.
Yeah. Well, ladies, thank you for coming in. I hope that people learn more about it. And we'll have you come back again, talk more about Dubois County Cares. It's a great program. If somebody wanted to be a volunteer, you're taking volunteers to do different work, different things?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We always are in need of volunteers to do some of our things. So again, if you just want to go to DuboisCountyCares.org, you can email us there. We're also on social media. So we have Facebook. That's where we're heaviest right now. And you can find us at Dubois County Cares there. We also have a Dubois County Parents Who Host Lose the Most Facebook page where parents from Dubois County can go to learn about some of those parameters as well.
It really, there's no excuse. The information's out there. You just got to be willing to read it or accept it. I think probably more than anything, sometimes we just have to be willing to accept what is being said by Dubois County Cares, and so hopefully no one will end up at the Community Correction Center. All right, ladies, thank you very much for being our guest.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for watching WJTS Inform. We have had as our guest Megan Durlauf. She is on the committee, or the coalition for Dubois County Cares, but she is the Director of Community Corrections for Dubois County. And also joining us is Ashtin Borden. She is the coordinator for Dubois County Cares, which is run through TRICAP. So you could also contact TRICAP if you wanted to find out more.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. TRICAP is our fiscal agent, so even any donations, if you feel passionate about this and you think, gee, I don't have the time, but I would love to support it monetarily, TRICAP is our fiscal agent. Without TRICAP, we wouldn't be able to have offices or even have the grant that we have. So you can find us if you want to talk to us specifically. We have pamphlets and other paraphernalia that we can hand out to students and to parents to talk about substance use issues, and you can find us at TRICAP.
And we ask for volunteers, but we often forget financial contributions are matched because of this grant. So if you give $10, they get $10. If you give $1,000, they get $1,000.
Yeah, and that's another important part about our coalition, and to point out is that we do, while we have gotten $125,000 for the next 5 years, from the federal government, we are required to match that at 100%. So we need to match that in volunteer hours and in dollars that are brought in.
Okay, so contact Ashtin to help out in some way. Thank you for watching WJTS. We're local people watching local people.